Currently, a severe storm is hitting and shaking up a large community, the international student community in the U.S., especially those from China. The seemingly endless beautiful days have come to an end, making way for a new era full of upheaval and challenges. The lives of Chinese students in the United States are becoming more uncertain than ever. There was a time when they were the largest and most welcome group of international students. Now, the doors to Harvard University have closed to them. The chances of obtaining an H-1B visa, which were already highly competitive, have become even more elusive. Most recently, even the OPT visa, the valuable key that opens opportunities for internships and employment after graduation, is at risk of being revoked. Basic student visas are also undergoing intense scrutiny. On social media platforms, especially TikTok, the anxious eyes of Chinese international students have sparked a wave of concern. They express their uncertainty about whether they will be able to complete their studies, or if they will be forced to return home before earning their prestigious degrees. This anxiety stems from a sudden announcement on April 28th. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced on the official website of the State Department a plan to tighten student visa policies for Chinese students. According to the information, the administration of President Donald Trump has directed the State Department to work closely with the Department of Homeland Security to review and revoke the visas of students identified as having ties to the Chinese Communist Party or studying fields that Washington considers sensitive to national security. This move is seen as part of a broader U.S. strategy to curb China's growing influence in high-tech sectors and strategic research. The fields under scrutiny include artificial intelligence, nuclear technology, aerospace engineering, and many areas that could be applied for military purposes. The U.S. government is concerned that these training programs could be exploited to transfer critical technologies abroad, posing a direct risk to national security and defense. The tightening of visa policies has sparked a range of opinions. Some analysts argue that this is a necessary step to protect long-term strategic interests, especially amid the increasingly tense U.S.-China competition. However, there are also concerns that this policy could harm the open and diverse academic environment, which is considered a strength of American universities. Many Chinese students and researchers have expressed worries that they may become targets of discrimination, while also increasing barriers to educational and scientific collaboration between the world's two largest economies. This new policy has directly impacted thousands of students. Wu, a 29-year-old student, stayed up all night refreshing the visa website and finally secured an interview appointment in June at the U.S. consulate in Shanghai. "I saw the news around midnight and started trying immediately," she shared, her voice tense. The website kept crashing. This overload reflects a harsh reality. Fear is spreading throughout the international student community. Chun, a 22-year-old student who received a master's program admission letter from the University of North Carolina, couldn't hide his anxiety. "I've been looking at reactions on social media and feel very unsettled." Another young person in Chengdu decided to postpone enrollment for one semester to wait and see how things unfold, and has even prepared a plan B. If she can't go to the U.S., she'll consider an offer from the London School of Economics. Meanwhile, a biology student faces an even bleaker future, as there are no backup options if their U.S. visa application is denied. The disappointment and pessimism are summed up in the haunting words of a doctoral student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. "The golden days of international students are over. A new cycle of challenges is about to begin." In reality, the cancellation of student visas for Chinese students is just one part of a broader strategy. One day before this policy was announced, the Trump administration issued a suspension on issuing new student visas to all international students worldwide. This order was issued as an internal memo, signed by Secretary of State Rubio, as part of a plan to enhance screening procedures, particularly social media checks. When asked about this diplomatic cable, U.S. State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce declined to comment on the details, but emphasized that any sovereign nation has the right to know who is trying to enter, why they are coming, and what their intentions are. She affirmed that the U.S. will use every tool available to screen those seeking entry, whether they are students or anyone else. Ms. Bruce also expressed confusion about why the visa issue has become such a controversial topic. "We are not discussing individual cases or the nature of each decision," she said. We only know that the process of screening those who come to this country is carried out very thoroughly. We will continue to do so. At the same time, an email from X indicated that the U.S. Department of State has temporarily suspended visa interviews for students and exchange visitors worldwide. This has caused a significant disruption for students who had planned to study in the United States. This new policy aims to expand the screening and checks on social media. Although previously scheduled interviews will still be conducted, no new appointments will be arranged until further notice. Students currently in the U.S. who plan to leave to renew their visas are advised against traveling to avoid the risk of being unable to return. Typically, an F-1 visa is valid for 5 years, but renewing it is similar to applying for the visa for the first time. For academic programs lasting around 4 months and doctoral programs lasting 3 to 8 years, the sudden changes in visa policy have caused significant instability. Secretary of State Rubio affirmed that this policy is part of the Trump administration's broader effort to restrict foreign students' access to higher education based on national security concerns. He stated that students in sensitive fields such as artificial intelligence, semiconductors, and biotechnology need to be subject to more thorough scrutiny. The United States will not allow any hostile regime to exploit our education system to gain access to core technologies and defense knowledge, he emphasized. Currently, international students make up 5.9% of nearly 19 million college students in the United States, with half of them coming from India and China. Amid escalating U.S.-China tensions, the number of Chinese students declined by 4% in 2024, totaling around 277,000. The FBI has repeatedly warned that the Chinese Communist Party is exploiting academic exchange programs to gather intelligence and intellectual property. Professor Song Guang from Nanhua University, Taiwan, stated that U.S. policies indicate that education and talent mobility have now become a part of national defense. He believed this represents the most extensive and systematic security crackdown in history targeting Chinese students. The purpose is not only to protect security, but also to send a strong political message. The clear focus is on preventing technology theft, academic infiltration, and intelligence gathering in sensitive fields such as artificial intelligence, high technology, and defense. Associate Professor Shiming Xu at Tom Kong University, Taiwan, also pointed out that Trump's policies directly address concerns about campus influence and technology leaks. A notable example is the recent controversy involving Harvard University. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security sent a letter to Harvard University questioning the school's relationship with the Chinese Communist Party and its involvement in training members of the Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps. Additionally, the department requested a list of international students connected to protests or violent behavior, along with surveillance footage. Although Harvard partially declined the request, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem ordered the termination of Harvard certification in the Student and Visitor Exchange Program, putting thousands of the university's international students at risk of having to transfer schools or leave the United States. Ms. Noem accused Harvard of failing to protect its students, allowing crime on campus to increase, and implementing discriminatory policies. She also criticized Harvard for accepting large donations from foreign governments, including tens of millions of dollars from China since 2013. A notable example is the $350 million donation in 2014, which led to the renaming of the School of Public Health after the father of real estate billionaire Ronnie Chan. President Trump also joined this confrontation, announcing a $2.6 billion cut in federal funding for Harvard and proposing to reduce the percentage of international students at the university. He also suggested revoking Harvard's tax-exempt status and investigating the school for potential violations of civil rights laws. In response, on May 23rd, Harvard filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration, accusing it of retaliatory actions that violate the First Amendment and would have a devastating impact on more than 7,000 visa-holding students. On the same day, a federal judge issued a temporary restraining order, temporarily halting the enforcement of the policy. The incident at Harvard is just part of a broader trend. Recently, members of Congress have called on Duke University to end its collaborations with Chinese organizations. In fact, a report by the Stanford Review revealed a long-term espionage network operated by the Chinese government at Stanford, where students were coerced into gathering intelligence. Florida Senator Ashley Moody bluntly asked, How can we continue to issue 300,000 student visas to Chinese citizens each year when we know they are legally required to gather intelligence for the Chinese Communist Party? The actions taken by the Trump administration targeting Chinese students and their visas were part of a broader effort to sever ties between American higher education and the Chinese Communist Party, while also ensuring a cleaner and safer academic environment. However, the future for Chinese international students in the U.S. remains uncertain. Are these challenges the end of their American dream? Only time will tell.